Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. Obey. All right, let me get some things set up on these screens here. Put on the all-important Obey reading glasses. I'm going to go over here. All right, where are we at? Dun, dun, dun. Live chat. There we are. Hey. I'm not like the slick technical team here. I've got to mute this because you guys are on like a 30-second delay. All right, there we go. That Viking dude. Yeah, he was at a concert in Berlin. Not a very nice name for that concert, but yeah. All right. Let me do this. Let me come see this. Put Put this over here. Put this over here. This right here. I just got to be able to see you guys, see me, and we can get going. All right. Can y'all hear me okay? And you can just kind of please keep a running watch and let me know what people, if you scoot the play button all the way over to the right, you'll be watching live. All right. Technical difficulties, sort of, but hey, we're here. I'm happy about that. You know, obviously we're not at Shofar Mountain, right? We're at High Prairie Acres again. And do you know it's cooler in our home at Shofar Mountain than it is here? We don't have air conditioning in this house. We've got an air conditioner and ductwork and everything, but the air conditioner is ganz tot, and we need a new one. Our neighbor said he'd put it in for us. He said it'd probably cost about $2,000. We don't live here, so we're not doing that right now. But yeah. Can you get me a paper towel, please, sweetie? It's hot. It's hotter here than there. Let's see. How do I want to start? Yesterday, my wife, Sister Kate, or as some call her, Mother Kate. Look at that lighting. Maybe I'll get her to fix that too. No, I don't think I can. I'll just sit here like that. Isn't that better? Oh, this is the calm Pastor Joe. My wife had her 6-month checkup for her brain surgery. Everything went well. Had an MRI, and doc said, "Good, looks fine. Come back in a year, for a checkup." So we're going to do that. And then last night, we got to go visit with a group of preppers who meet, I think, once a month. They might meet bi-weekly, I'm not sure, but they meet every now and then. And I knew, excuse me, I knew they did, and so I asked permission to come to the meeting because it was in the place where we were going, and they said, "Yeah, you can come. Would you like to speak?" Thank you. So you know me, I'm afraid to speak in public, right? And so we did that, and Sister Kate helped. And right before we diagnosed right before we went up there. What? Yeah, right before we went up there. She was diagnosed with like pharyngitis. I don't know, sore throat stuff, right? And then she spoke a lot last night. And then we got back to our hotel room, and she was like coughing up blood. Not like coming out of her lungs, but like when she went up, there was blood. And then we looked in her mouth, and what's that called? The uvula, it hangs down in your throat. There were like sores around it, blood. Ugh. And so she went to the emergency room today, and they have her on like super antibiotics that like kill all the flora in your body. I was on those once. I went to an undisclosed at this time country in Central Asia, spent some time there, and when I came back, let's just say that my guts were far from okay. And so I tried to gut it out, for a couple weeks. And man, not only was it not getting better, I was getting weak. And I really don't want to share the gory graphic details with y'all, but it was gross. And so I went to the doc, and they're like, "Holy moly!" And they put me on super antibiotics, and it killed all the flora in and on my body. And then you have to take like acidophilus and stuff to get it all back. But yeah, there's some funky diseases out there in the world. And I told her maybe she went there with pharyngitis, but while we were hanging out, because they said it's some kind of super staph. And I'm thinking maybe while we were hanging out in the hospital, man, who knows? But she seems to be doing okay. I don't know if she's going to talk tonight, though. I don't think she is. It's a little bit hard for her to talk. Hey, do you know what the beverage of ninjas is? What the warrior beverage? Water with ice, because I'm soft. All right. Let me see what you guys are saying. I can't look at the screen, look at the camera, and look at what you're saying all at the same time. So I see hee hee. Thanks, Amelia. Oh no, poor Sister Kate. Thanks for the prayer. She can use them. All right. Colloidal silver. That's a good idea. All right. Very good. Farm chores done. Shower. Adult beverage. Yes. Okay. I saw some good comments on things to talk about. The subjects were wide, but I think what I'm going to do is give y'all at first a taste of the lessons learned from hosting a large group of people. The whys aren't really that important because I think the lessons that we learned could apply to you, where for whatever reason, Tiawaki, the world without rule of law, or something like that, you've got family and friends from out of town showing up at your place to stay. Many hands make light work. It's easier to pull security when it's not just you and your old lady or you and your old man. And so, having more people can be a very big benefit. I spent a lot of time talking about that last night at the meeting we went to. But it comes at a bit of a price, or a bit of a cost. So we gathered for the middle of the year feast, Shavuot, Pentecost, Feast of Weeks. You can read about it in the Bible if you're interested. And by the way, Leviticus 23, chapter 23 is your go-to chapter for all the feasts if you're interested. Can't do the sacrifices anymore because there's no temple, right? But other than that, we observe the feast as best we can. And for Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, we gathered. We had a set-apart gathering. And at peak times during the weekend, we had 80 people on Shofar Mountain. And Shofar Mountain's got no power, has no running water, don't have a whole lot of housing. And if something like this happened to you, you might not have power. You might not have running water. You probably also don't have 4 outhouses already built. You may or may not have a running stream and a well. That was helpful. And so I talked to my wife about it a little bit, and we may do an actual video on this, where we actually write down notes and talk about it. But I know the one thing that she said she learned is that she had prepared more for the people coming. We took it a little bit lackadaisical because these people, in the main, had been to Shofar Mountain several times before. And so to our mind, they knew the deal, right? And they knew what to expect and the ruggedness thereof. And so we didn't do probably as much prep. Like, what kinds of things were you thinking about, sweetie?
We could have had more of the shower things taken care of, everything cleaned, the stuff was just organized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So we have a visitor's guide to Shofar Mountain. It's been written and added to over the years, and I don't know, it's a page and a half, 2 pages typewritten. I send it as an attachment to people who are coming. And I expect them to read it. but I think maybe that doesn't get done all the time. And, you know, I tell people things like showers. We have a shower house, but you're going to have to bring your own shower bag or a bucket, a big pot to heat up water on a fire or a propane stove or something like that. Because we just don't have a lot of extras. And we certainly don't have, you know, 40 or 80 extra. And so my wife is like, well, we could have bought some extra ones. Yeah, we could have, or people could have read the directions. It's kind of how I look at it. We have a big challenge. I don't like saying problem, but we have a big challenge with trash. And we separate our trash into two bags, if you will, series of bags. We have the bag where paper and plastic goes, and we have the bag where metal and glass go. Because metal and glass, they don't burn, and they have to be thrown away at dumpsters, Walmart trash cans, things like that, taken to the dump, things like that. And so these people have all been there before, and it's in the visitor's guide, you know, and even we tell them like chip bags and Pop-Tart wrappers and candy wrappers with foil mylar, that stuff doesn't burn. And so that's got to go in the metal glass. And then we also tell people in about 2 or 3 places in that letter, and we told them for the last couple of years, hey, if you use diapers, you need to take them with you, because we learned, much to our dismay, that diapers do not burn. And I don't want to be left with, you know, I don't know how many infants were there in diapers, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, you know, something like that. I don't want to be left with 4 days worth of dirty diapers. And so, you know, with 80 people, there's a lot going on. I'm fully engaged in things, as you would be if a lot of people came to your place in an emergency, right? And let's just say the trash didn't get sorted correctly. And so that was a problem. That required more supervision. Assumed, hey, you've been here before, you know the rules of the road, but if you forgot, here they are in writing. That didn't work so good. I even gave a briefing when people came. Yeah, that was kind of disturbing. But here's some things that worked well. Everybody brought tents. Everyone helped everyone set up tents. We had a couple small cabins available for VIPs, you know, women who were pregnant with little children, you know, also, you know, people who really could benefit out of the mass of people. All right, you guys get a little cabin. And so we were able to do that. I want to build more cabins. And I've said this before, if you build any structures on your land, even if you live in suburbia and you build a shed in the backyard to hold your grill or whatever, think about using that shed as emergency housing when you have to. Maybe build the shelves big enough, wide enough for a sleeping mat or pad or something to go on. Those were nice to have. Let's see. The bathrooms. So here's another thing. We have outhouses, and for those of you who don't know about outhouses, they're not that bad if you use them correctly. And by that, we have directions, written directions, posted on the wall of our outhouses. And the way it works, and this is all written down, you go into the outhouse, it's clean, it's white, it's stenciled, it has Bible verses on the walls, and there's a hinged lid. You lift the hinged lid up, and then there's a toilet seat on the wall. You take the toilet seat, you set it over the hole, you do your business, you hang the seat back up, you close the lid. When the lid is closed, the only way those fumes can go is up a chimney that's high above your head and nose. And so everything's good and bugs don't get in there and everything. But it's real important to close that lid and keep the door shut. Bugs in your outhouse. And so 80 people, oh, and we had 4 outhouses, but only really one of them was being used by the vast majority of people, because the others were like, I don't know, a quarter mile to a half mile away from the main festivity area. So I get it. And then somebody told me like right towards the end, "Ooh, that outhouse is starting to stink from all the use." And I'm thinking, it shouldn't, because even though it's 80 people, this outhouse hasn't been used forever, and 80 people don't poop that much, right? I mean, I know that's graphic, but it's real. I found out after the fact that the reason it was a stinking is because people weren't closing the lids when they were done. They just left the lid up. Well, when the lid's left up, all the fumes from the pit come into this little building that's baking in the sun instead of going out and up the chimney and out where people can't smell it. So again, failure to follow directions, my failure to supervise, even though I told people how to use it, took them on a walkabout. I think people go through life and they don't have immediate is for their actions, lack of action, lack of paying attention to the rules, and they can just be like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I know that's what you said, whatever. We don't make up rules just to make them up, right? They're based on experience. And so again, maybe I could have done more supervision there, but that's what happened there. The kids, there were a lot of kids, were extremely well behaved. I was amazed. These little children, let me get over here. Can I get out of the sun? No, there. I'm gonna have to keep the sunsets like that. I'll have to keep moving. You'll see more of my living room. The children were very well behaved, and man, that made it easy. You know, they were quiet when it was time to be quiet. When it was time to eat, they're used to eating as a group because the visitors, the non-Shofarians, came from basically one church that lives in basically two houses. There's each is out there, but there's big family housing groups. And so they're used to eating meals together and things like that. And when they said it's time to eat, those kids sat down. Dishes got handed out. The women were really good at getting the food out in front of all the kids. They ate their food. They didn't mess around. And there was one older woman who sat there, because we're all sitting out in lawn chairs outside for a lot of the day. And she had this big wooden spoon. And when kids would start like acting up, all she would do is pull it up and go like this. All the kids would go like, whoop. They were good. So that was really nice. You know, that could have been horrible if the children were bad. And so raising your children right is a good thing. We had enough water. That worked well, and then people went down to the creek to bathe. They bathed in the shower house. Food was good. We told them, hey, y'all got to bring your own food because I can't feed 80 people. And they did that, and that worked well. And then we had several potluck meals during the weekend where everybody just kind of chipped in. What else, sweetie? Oh, it rained. Rained a lot. When the people showed up, several of them had been on a camp out where I guess they packed up in the rain and they failed to open up their tents when they got home and let them dry. And so they smelled and were funky and were kind of moldy. If your tent gets wet and you have to pack your tent wet, that's fine. But as soon as you get home, set it up somewhere to dry, even if that's in your garage or in your living room or whatever. Try that gear before you store it long term or it gets funky. Can you think of anything else off the top of your head?
People ask me for things like bottle and paper towel, clean your tents, buckets.
Oh yeah, so people were asking, even though they'd been there before, hey, do y'all have a bucket? Do you have some paper towels? Do you have a squirt bottle? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have that? You know, if it's just one family coming to your house and they have that, that's fine. If it's, you know, the equivalent of what, 20 families all asking for stuff, it runs you out of stuff pretty quick. I remember in Y2K, people used to talk about toilet paper. We kind of anticipated that people wouldn't bring toilet paper, and so we bought a lot right before everybody showed up. But if you're going to have a lot of people show up at your house, think about things like you're probably, unless this thing goes long term, you're probably not going to want to be washing a whole lot of dishes and stuff. So you're going to be using a lot of paper plates and maybe plastic silverware that you can throw away or burn or whatever, paper towels, napkins, things like that. Those are the kind of things that storing up now, if you're expecting a group, will make your life easier. Another thing that went well, no one had to be asked or told to do a chore. Chores got done. People looked around, saw something needed to be done, and it got done. Those sisters cleaned that kitchen well after every meal. It was nice. I mean, honestly, I think they cleaned it better than it was when they showed up after every meal. They went to town, and again, they're used to working together like that. The people who show up at your place probably aren't going to be, And so you should have some rules and procedures already worked out. And we went to a house one time. I did a security assessment on a bug out retreat, and my wife came with me. Um, and they had a lovely, lovely home. I'm talking granite countertops, cool kitchen with the little glass front refrigerator and the big refrigerator and the freezer and the cool sinks. And, it was like an executive level home that nobody lived in, out in the middle of this wonderful piece of property with cabins around it and metal shops. I mean, these people did their bug out location right. And I was there for a security survey. But when we went in the house, there were labels, made with label maker, and then they were printed out and put in document protectors and posted at certain places. How to wash the dishes, where everything goes away in the kitchen, how to clean the bathroom when you're done. I mean, it was like wipe down the shower, spray with the Clorox spray or whatever it was, put the paper towels in here. I mean, it was very detailed how to do it. And they did that because periodically people would come visit and use it kind of like a vacation cabin or something, and they wanted it put back the way it was, and so that works. I think practicing hosting some people at your place, if you think they're going to come eventually, will go a long way towards getting you ready for this kind of thing. Woman power, yes, SOPs, and SOPs take time to develop, and you got to work with them, and then modify them a little bit until you get them right. Family doesn't always mean blood. You got that right, Jeff. So that was that. Man, I had my phone. Excuse me. I had a good question on here I wanted to address that somebody sent me. I hope that's still there. Anybody know anything about Steemit? I have an account there. That's all I know. It's called Viking Prepared. It wouldn't let me write preparedness. That's as far as I've gotten. Let me go down here because I had some questions that I saved on my phone. Oh, Ruth O. Riva. I don't even know if she's here, but I'll tell you all. She said, how many pounds of food per person? What does that work out to? I'm a big fan of putting away for long-term food storage 4 things: rice, beans, wheat, and corn. Why? Because they're cheap. And you can eat a meal of rice and beans and get all the amino acids that you need. You can eat a meal of beans and corn together, and you'll get all the nutrients that you need. You have to eat it in the same meal. And then wheat, you can make bread, gruel, whatever. There's all different things you can do with that food, but it's very inexpensive. And one time I actually did the process because each bucket, a 5-gallon bucket, holds about 33 pounds of product, right? And so I did the math on it one time. How many calories are in 33 pounds of rice, 33 pounds of beans, 33 pounds of wheat, 33 pounds of corn? And what it worked out to was about 30 days in a bucket of 33 pounds of 1,500 and something to 1,700 and something calories, depending on which one of those 4 it was. That will barely sustain life, but it will sustain life, especially if you supplement it with anything. And so we use that as our rule of thumb: 1 bucket per person per month. So if you want a 6-month supply, you need 6 buckets per person. If you want a year supply, you need 12. I feel better, with like 18 buckets for a year, but really, we just kind of use it as a rule of thumb: 1 bucket per person per month. And then, try to have a mix in there. And then anything else you want to add, spices, sauces, whatever is good. But that's a really cheap way to put a lot of food up. And so I recommend it. So that's an answer to that question. Ruth, if you're here or not, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Anthony Beard, what did you say? 10 things you should know or consider before starting your homestead adventure. or significant obstacles, considerations you wish you had known. It sounds like part of my talk last night. This is how we looked at it. We bought the land. Don't buy country land without a current survey. You got to know what you're buying. And then we decided the first thing we were going to do was get water, drill for water. And around where we are, everyone around us was hitting water at about 33 feet. So that's not a very expensive well as wells go. And so our plan was we're going to go drill for water. If we cannot find water, we're going to back out. And we haven't really invested anything except a couple empty wells that we've done. And so we found water right away. Praise the Father. And then we decided we were going to build roads and clearings for housing, cabins, trailers, that kind of thing. And so that was the next thing we did. And then once we were on the land, we had water, we could drive our trucks on barely. The next thing we wanted to do is get a garden going. We wanted to do food. And then we built chicken coops to house our chickens. And then we started building goat fencing. And we were trying to work on the food gardening aspect. And we put a lot of time into that before we put time into the houses, because we wanted to make a go of, eating, right? And so I would recommend that, those steps. I'm not doing 10 right now, but kind of water first, then access, and then clearing places that you need to use. Something to think about on any piece of land is put your house, we didn't, but that doesn't mean it's not a good idea. Put your house on the bad land. You can build a house on land like this. You can just bring the house out and down. Save the flat land for your gardens or your animal pen, depending on what kind of animals they are, and stuff like that. So that's something to think about. A lot of people move from the city to the country, and maybe 3 or 4 families, 5 families get together, and they get an acreage, and the first thing they want to do is get elbow room, right? Lebensraum. And so it's like, I'll put my house here, and you put your house down the hill, and you put your house by the creek. They kind of want to spread out. I think that's a bad idea. I think you should put your houses close together, close enough together that when I'm sitting on my front porch, I can see everybody else's front porch. It's really good for security. It's good for maximizing the usefulness of the land. We'll put all the housing here, and then that gives us the rest of the land for crops, gardens, hunting, whatever. Things like that. So consider putting your houses together. Throughout history, that's what people have done. Africa, Asia, Europe, all the houses go together, and then that leaves a lot of useful land out around the sides. I'll tell you something, I'm switching gears on you. Well, let me look at your comments first. Maybe there's something there. Yeah, somebody's saying they're like mixing rice and beans in a bucket and with gravy, stew, seasoning, so you have all in one. Yeah, I did that for a while. I don't like that. You do what you want. I don't care. We just like having, all right, this is the open bucket of rice. This is the open bucket of beans. This is the open bucket of corn. This is the open bucket of wheat. My wife puts little round cushions on some of them and uses them for the seat for when she's playing her, battery powered piano, things like that. And then that way I can get what I want. I don't have to make something out of what I have left. But, that's me. That's my personality. I like rooms. I like things in boxes. I like things with like things. Hand grinders. Yeah, hand grinders are important. I have a really good blog post on grinders, vikingpreparedness.blogspot.com. And do I have my book out here? I can't shamelessly plug my book, Survivalist Family, Prepared Americans for a Strong America. I have a chapter, a little niblet in there on grinders too. I think I took it mostly from the blog post that I did. But there's some good advice on meat grinders, wheat grinders, corn grinders, things like that. And they're not all that expensive, and they can work. So, yeah. But don't wait to get your food until you have a grinder. If you have to, you can grind your beans or your corn or your wheat on your sidewalk with a brick. I mean, if you have to, you can do that. Get the food. Worry about the mills and the grinders later. Thank you for Rainey for the plug on the book. Yeah, DL, you are mixing them. That's what I'm talking about. You're putting some rice in a bucket. Okay, it's in its own bag, I know. You're putting some beans in that same bucket. What I'm talking about is a bucket of rice, a bucket of beans, a bucket of corn or wheat or things like that. But again, it's okay if you're mixing it. That's what you want to do. Palmetto Paratrooper says, this is for y'all though. Everybody listen up to this. I have a book in me. Can you teach me the process of writing one, Pastor Joe? I can. I used to actually, as part of my job, teach people who had never done so to write very detailed reports on experiences that I can't go into right now. But they had to kind of write them as they went. And I'll tell you a little story. I was in Kosovo and I was doing a job and I had some downtime, and a guy and I were talking about writing a book together. And the working title of our book was Asymmetric, because most of the military throws around that term asymmetric warfare a lot, but it comes from a white paper written by two Chinese colonels. And most of the Americans who throw around the term asymmetric warfare don't know what they're talking about. And they just heard the blurbs from what these Chinese generals wrote. They never read their paper. I read their paper. And I have a pretty good feel on what they meant for asymmetric warfare. And so we were going to write this book, and we actually got it started. Then 9/11 happened, and we were getting too close to something, so we let it go. But this guy had written before. He used to write for In the Ring magazine. He was an amateur boxer. He managed people. Talked Bruce Willis down in a corner one time. Good stories there. But anyway, he told me, hey, what you need to do is go get Stephen King's book On Writing. That's the name of the book, On Writing. And I'm like, I don't really like Stephen King stuff. And I like people with a little backbone, and this guy had a lot. And he looked at me and he goes, now there were bad words thrown in our conversation because we were soldiers. So I'm just admitting those, but in your mind, you can probably put them there. But I didn't ask you if you like Stephen King. I told you need to read his book. And so I did. And if you want to write a book, I highly recommend you go get, you can probably get it for 99 cents used on Amazon, Stephen King's On Writing. There's a lot of stuff, stories of his life and stories here, but they all kind of illustrate a point. And in a nutshell, but I'm not doing the book justice, what he says one has to do, and I have found this to be true, is because here's the point. Everybody has a book in them. Every one of y'all has a book that other people would buy and read, and you could make money off of. And so the way he says to write is this. The first thing is you have to find your time of day to write. I'm really good at writing. My brain is clear. The muses are talking to me, whatever, from about 10 in the afternoon till 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Unfortunately, that's when I'm also the most productive at getting things done on the homestead, which is why I haven't been writing like I should. But find your time, because you could be really good from, after the kids go to bed, 9 o'clock at night till 11, 12 at night, something like that. Somebody else may be really good 4 o'clock in the morning till 6:30 in the morning, whatever. But you have to find your time. And the way you find your time, because we all have, I don't want to get like all woo-woo on you, but we all have biorhythms. And, it's periods of peak alertness and peak activity and then lows, and we have lows and highs, and, they go. And mine aren't like yours. And so you need to find your time. And the way you do that is you write every day. Every single day you need to write. And very quickly you'll find out when your writing time is. And so you write every day. You find your time to write. You have to have a place to write. You can't just like, today I'm going to write here in the living room, and then tomorrow I'll be at my bedroom, and then I'll be out in the kitchen. You need to have your workspace. You don't have to be rich. Stephen King talks about he and his wife lived in a cruddy 1-bedroom apartment, and he took a board. This was long before laptops, computers, and word processors. He took a board and put it across his washer and dryer, which were miniature ones that fit in a little closet. And then he had a stool, and he had his typewriter, and he put it on there, so he'd be in this little closet. And and he would write every day. So you find your place, you find your time, you write every day. And even when you don't feel like writing, then write anyway. Rewrite what you wrote yesterday. What you're trying to do is train your mind to get into the habit of writing and just start writing. Another thing he said in his book that I took to heart, I'm a planner, right? You guys know I plan things out greatly. And I was starting out with my book planning all the characters and how they were going to interact here, and then how they were going to meet down here, and where were the crisis points going to be. And I was starting to do that. And Stephen King, who writes fiction, and he's talking about writing fiction for the most part, but the advice I just gave you doesn't apply to just fiction, but this part probably does. He said, just start writing. Let the story come out. It's like an artist, it's like, I'm going to take this block of marble and this chisel and this hammer, and I'm going to carve a roaring lion. Okay. Or what a lot of artists do is they start carving and see what comes out. And so that's what he did. He said, just start writing. And so I have, for the book I'm writing, and I put it up every month, a different section for the $10 and up, the Jarls Vikings to read. I know where I kind of want the book to go, and I know key points that I want to bring out in the book, but man, I'm just letting that thing flow. So there, that's some advice for you. But the best advice is get Stephen King's book on writing. I hope that wasn't too long, but everybody has a book in them. I always tell people that. Write everything. Yep. Jarls. All right, somebody asked me a question. I'll try and answer the first question I see on here. Any EMP thoughts? Look at how fast that was, Granddad, Grandpa. What is the bare minimum size of property? Okay, I'll do those two. EMP. I don't know. How about that? I read the book 1 second after, 1 year after. I've read the reports from Congress, who were basically reading the books that I just talked about. There's a lot of people who say, not going to happen, can't happen. It's not nearly as bad as you think it is. A lot of other people are like, oh no, it's going to be horrible. North Korea has 2 satellites going over our head. I'm not worried about those satellites because we have that secret space plane, and I don't think that thing stayed in space for a year without telling anybody what it was doing, without taking care of anything floating over our head. Just saying. Coronal mass ejection, right? So I've read all the stuff. Worst cases, nothing electronic will work. Best cases, doesn't affect you at all. Odds, I don't know. I am prepared to live with no electricity. I'm prepared here, and I'm pretty prepared physically. And here's what I tell people, and I saw a comment, I think one of y'all left a comment, because I was going through your comments on my phone earlier about we're too attached, could have been on YouTube, we're too attached to our stuff, all our gewgaws, man, and we just don't want to leave that behind. And do you own your stuff, or does your stuff own you? The people who came here in the 1700s, I'm talking Europeans, 1800s, they didn't have any electricity. Most of them didn't have oil, like for oil lamps, not the pioneers, not in the beginning. They didn't have any of that stuff, man. They were just out there living. The natives, the American Indians, the tribes, the nations, they didn't have any of that stuff. And yet they lived happy, fulfilling, full, spiritual lives. And so what I tell you is you don't need what you think you need. And so EMP, will it be devastating? Oh yeah, lots of people will die. But not if you position yourself correctly, 40 acres and a mule. And so that's my thoughts on EMP. It's one of the things that's a threat. But like I say, my wife brought me the book, shameless plug. In my book, Survivalist Family, Prepared Americans for a Strong America. It says that on there somewhere. Basic preparedness, intermediate preparedness covers a whole bunch of situations. There's the picture of the grinders in the article I wrote. mills and grinders and such. So there's that. Bare minimum amount of property for a family. Man, that depends. If it's good land, I make this comparison to people a lot. You know, Shofar Mountain, we have a lot of property, but it's rock and clay and trees, right, and hills. And then here at High Prairie Acres, we have significantly less. But the dirt is awesome. I can use every square inch of the property. And I think if you were smart and you really worked it, a smallish, 4 to 6 people family could make a go on a good 5 acres. I think you could almost be, I have a book, Self-Sufficiency on 5 Acres. It's a great book. But you really have to do intensive gardening and livestock management. It has to be the right 5 acres, the dirt, the pasture, the well, or the stream or whatever on it. But you can do that. If you just look at that family, you remember what their name is? It's not the Dvoraks, the Diverses. Somebody will know. They live in like Anaheim, California, and they live on 1/10 of an acre, and they just grow a ton of food, tons, I think, of food every year. If you do things like that, you can make a go. I know that when my wife and we decided we wanted to retire on rural property, about halfway through my career, we decided when we retired, we wanted to be in a rural area. And our initial idea was either 20 or 25 was what we were looking for at a minimum acreage. We thought with 20, 25 acres, we could do what we wanted to do. The bigger your land is, the less people can see you from the sides of your land. So that's something to think about. And for those of you who don't know about land, 40 acres of land is a 1/4 mile by a 1/4 mile, which is only, 440 yards by 440 yards? And that's 40 acres. A section of land is a square mile, and that's like 660 or something like that, 640. Permaculture, yeah, there are aspects of permaculture that are really good. There are aspects, my opinion, of permaculture that are faddish and more work and just stressing and than is really necessary. That's me. There's good stuff in there's good stuff in there, but you just do the best you can. Any thoughts on a Shofar Mountain Patreon with daily Bible study? Nope, I don't have time to do that. It is so hard for me when I don't have electricity just to get a video up. I try to get a video up or a blog post or something every day, and my real goal is 5 a week, and I'm doing okay on that. But and we do Bible studies and stuff. But if I were to then set up the camera and get the mics and then have to do the very little editing that I do and get it posted, I just don't have time for that. But you should be reading your Bible and doing a Bible study every day. Read your Bible. Talk about it with who's ever there. Get off my lawn. Yep, that's them, the Dervays. Back to Eden's great. That's what we use. Love Back to Eden. I think that's what saved us at Shofar Mountain. Originally, we were thinking that we were going to do raised beds because we had great success with that in the Pacific Northwest. And I was actually going to bring dirt from Kansas to fill the raised beds. That's a ridiculous idea. And then when we found Back to Eden method, and just go watch the movie, buy the DVD and watch it 8 times, that really helped us. So let's see. Yeah, Back to Eden works great. Oh, that's my wife saying that. Back to Eden works. In the event of an immediate need to vacate your bug out location, you should have a secondary fallback position with supplies to wait or to be able to take back your primary site. Oh yeah. PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency, plans for everything. You got your primary bug out location, you need an alternate, a contingency, and an emergency. You have your primary route to each one, you need your alternate, your contingency, and your emergency. Yeah, yes. You need plan A, B, C, and D for everything. I agree 100%. Can I briefly explain Back to Eden? Really, you need to go watch the movie. Because when I tell you that you lay cardboard down and put mulch on top of it, that so oversimplifies it that people are like, I can do that. And then people go do it and you get it all wrong. Watch the movie. It's free. You can get it online. Back to Eden Garden. But basically, it's heavy mulching that keeps the grass down and it grows soil. Earth bag homes for ready-made fallout shelters. Whatever works for you. You know, you're not filling any earth bags where I live. You just can't get that much dirt. The thing for a fallout shelter is you need mass and you need airflow because they get hot really fast when you put bodies in them. And you need to read Cresson Kearney's Nuclear War Survival Skills. Trenching, who are you putting in your trenches? You got 30 guys? If you don't have 30 guys, I think trenching is going to be a waste of time. I think you better run and hide behind trees like the Indians did. And the other thing is trenching is basically meaning you want to defend something, right? There's a time to defend and there's a time to run. And as Patton said, right, fixed fortifications are monuments to man's stupidity. Yeah, unless you have a good number of people, you aren't going to defend for very long, or you're going to die there in your defensive position. So, mm-hmm. Guerrilla gardening. Yeah, it's cute, right? It's trendy. Looks good in magazines when you write about it. You need to grow food. And, you know, you go out in some little vacant part of land and you grow some onions or you grow some carrots, right? They hide, or you plant a fruit tree out there. Then, you know, you got to try and keep the bugs and the deer away from it and all that stuff. It sounds good, but the reality is when you need food, you're going to need food. You're going to need a lot of food. And food, when you produce it like that yourself, requires a bunch of things. So here's the deal. You know, humanity started out, if you will, the more primitive, further back you go, as hunter-gatherers, right? And so you go around, you kill critters, you eat them, you pick berries, roots, things like that, and you eat them. And a hunter-gatherer existence, if you look at it, they spend the bulk of their time hunting and gathering, most especially in climates like North America, where it gets cold in the wintertime. My wife came up with a theory about, you know, why have the sub-Saharan Africans not invented a rocket ship? Why have the Southeast Asians not put anyone on the moon? We haven't either. Work with me here. Why are all these big strides? You know, the Chinese came up with some cool stuff, right? Gunpowder. I think they came up with paper too. The Arabs, well, they came up with numbers. That's about it. Europeans came up with a lot, right? And her theory is how easy and hard it is to get food. If all you have to do, if you live in the tropical belt of Earth, and all you have to do when you want to eat is reach out here and grab a papaya, and I'm eating a papaya, and then tomorrow you're hungry, so I'm going to reach out here and grab a banana, and I'm going to eat a banana, and the next day, let's mix it up. Let's get some rambutans or something, you know, and let's eat those. And you can do that all year round. There's no need to think ahead. There's no need to plan. But when you have a really cold winter coming, when nothing grows, and it comes every year, it's like the Bible, right? Proverbs 6, go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. And basically, you have to work really hard during the growing season, and then you have to put up food and pray it gets you through early spring, because just because winter's over and spring's here, there's nothing growing that you can eat, right? And you're kind of getting down to the bottom of your stores. They called early spring the starving time. And so it makes you think ahead, and when you think ahead, it does something to your brain. And you have to plan, and there's consequences for lack of action, and you know, that kind of thing. But hunter-gatherers, not a whole lot of art, not a whole lot of culture. They were just scrabbling to survive. Once agriculture came in the picture, though, that led to abundance, that led to community, that led to governments to control it, that led to leisure time. Yeah, so things were better because they were growing a lot of food. Well, Americans don't grow a lot of food anymore. America grows a good amount of food, but Americans don't grow a lot of food. One guy will manage 1,000 acres of wheat up there in North Dakota or something. um, but people aren't growing all their food like they used to. And so if something happens, there's going to be a lot of hungry people really fast. You should be producing your own food. Sweetie, can I have some more water, please? Thank you. All right, let's see what's going on here on the comments. World events. I kind of gave you what I thought about Qatar, and talked about Syria. I've talked about North Korea. Did you all see that student? Now, I think on a YouTube video, I've made some derisive comments, and I might have to take them back, because the story was he was from UVA, University of Virginia. I applied to UVA as a kid, and then I went on a college visit and decided I didn't want to go there because I thought all the people, all the students there were stuck up, and then they didn't accept me anyway. But I'd already decided before I didn't get accepted I didn't want to go. But anyway, he went to North Korea on some kind of 1 month study abroad program or something. And like his last night there, he ripped a propaganda poster off the wall on a floor he wasn't supposed to be on, and they sentenced him to 15 years hard labor. And I remember thinking, well, there you are, acting a fool. This ain't America, you idiot. But then I got to thinking today, we don't know what he did or didn't do. We didn't get to hear from him. Nobody showed us a picture of him ripping that poster off the wall. They said they had pictures, but I don't recall seeing any. Anyway, he's been held for like a year, over a year. And then all of a sudden on Monday, the North Koreans said, hey, you can have him back. And we found out then he's been in a coma for a year, supposedly. They're saying, the last reports I read, first reports are usually not true, so more's coming out on that. But they're saying that he got botulism and then got in a coma, and he just laid there in a coma. Don't know. We got him. He's back in America now. And so there might be more stuff on the news right now. But I was a SEER instructor in the Army, survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. And the military decided that we needed to train soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, what to do and not to do when they were captured. And we made that decision. We took that decision after the Korean War, because the Koreans, under the guise of the Chinese and the Russians, had not perfected, but they were doing really good with brainwashing and torture and things like that. And so, we had good old patriotic American boys saying they were communists and didn't want to come back, and terrible things were done to them. And so training happened, and people didn't know, well, should I tell them who my commander is or not? Should I sign a statement saying America's a bunch of war pigs or not? And so the military designed training, and then it got better and better and better. But the Koreans were the ones who kind of precipitated that. Is it possible that they put this guy in a coma, torturing him, thinking he was a CIA agent or something? I was thinking about this today. I'll just go ahead and say it. There are 2 places in the world that I can think of, and only 2, that no American should go: Iran and North Korea. I don't care if you're an Iranian American or a Korean American. I don't care if you're white, brown, yellow, black, or blue. You should not go to those countries. They're number one going to suspect you're a spy. I am number one going to suspect you're a spy. Why else would you go there? I mean, what idiot goes to North Korea? I'm sorry. Give me a break. So they're going to think you are, and they don't play by our little rules, right? So I think your chances of getting snatched up are high in those countries, and I just wouldn't go there. But yeah, we don't really know what happened to that guy. He's in a coma. I know nothing about his condition. I actually prayed for him today. Don't even know the guy, and I repented of saying the things and thinking the things I did about him, because I could have been wrong. Could have been right. Could have been wrong. But yeah, he may not come back. That's a sad thing. But other than that, guys, I'm watching like you are. I'm not really following these Comey Sessions garbage. It's all noise. It's all just bogus. Nobody believes it. They're just trying to stir the pot, see what happens. They disgust me. All those politicians disgust me. The wilderness in North Korea is hard to find people in because of the lack of development. I know a lot about North Korea, but I really can't talk about it. Don't go to stupid places where stupid people do stupid stuff. Boy, I teach women that in my women's self-defense class. And I kind of use it like that. Don't go to places where people are being stupid and acting the fool. Don't be around drunk people. Don't be around high people. Don't be around angry people. That applies to men too. You really just shouldn't go to those places. Political theater, you're absolutely right. Please talk about what LOL. Amelia Hardesty, please talk about it. LOL. I don't know what you're talking about there. Y'all have chickens? My wife made a comment yesterday. Almost all of the Shofarians have chickens. Oh, North Korea. I can't. Almost all the Shofarians have chickens, their own little flocks of chickens. And, you know, youngish chickens lay an egg a day. And so we're all kind of flush in eggs. So in a lot of places you can have chickens down. They're easy to keep. If you don't have chickens and you should. I have chickens. Yeah. So food, producing your own food. Sister Kate, do you have anything to say? We only have about 4 minutes. She's recovering.
We can do a video on Faraday cage.
I'm probably not going to do a video on Faraday cages, and I'll tell you why. I'm not the guy. And I will never act like I know something that I don't know about. I'm not going to be the big cool guy that says this is what you need to do and that you need to buy it, you know, or even, you know, look at how cool I am. I'm going to show you all these things because honestly, I don't know a lot about Faraday cages. I've probably read what most of y'all have read about them. You know, man's got to know his limitations, and we should identify our weaknesses and work on them. I just don't like technical things. That's me, you know. I don't want to be the radio guy. I don't want to be the computer guy. I don't want to be the Faraday cage guy. I really don't even want to be the solar guy. I need solar, and I'm forcing myself to learn things about solar. But man, it is not like natural to me to go out and check my batteries and read my meter and do all that stuff because that's just not my personality type. I would much rather have a brother or a sister here who did that, told me what to do, and then kind of took care of the eaches and stuff, you know, and then I'll go do their firewood or something, or shoot them a deer, you know, come up with a defensive plan for their house, you know, division of labor and stuff. I tried to build a Faraday cage for like some small radios. I bought a galvanized trash can. I did all the things you read about with the trash can. And then I put a radio in it and left it on. And then I went to talk and I could hear it when I was talking on the outside. So, you know, radio frequency was getting through there. If that gets through there, I don't know what I don't know. And so I am not the guy to talk about Faraday cages. Sorry. Gas storage and rotation. Yeah, you know, I hear that. This darn ethanol blend doesn't last long. We don't buy ethanol. I put ethanol in my car, but the gas we store, and this is going to be the last thing I talk about tonight, the gas we store is the non-ethanol gas. We pay for it. And, you know, it's in our 5-gallon cans, and we rotate it. And so the way I rotate it again, because I'm not one of those anal list keeper guys, the empty cans go to that side and I slide them all forward. And then now I know I'm using the one that I pulled out of the front is the old gas. I don't label them. I don't know how old they are, seasonal fluctuations, whatever, man. And some of our gas is, 6 or so months old. And I use it mostly in the lawnmower and the weed eater and the chainsaw, with the mixers. And but I also stick it in our cars when I have to feel like it, want to empty a can so I can go fill it up again, that kind of thing. For Y2K, I lived in suburbia, Northern Virginia. For those familiar, I lived, Rivington Road and Rolling Road or something like that. Rolling Road and West Fairfax out there. Nice brick homes, 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house everywhere. And so we wanted to store a lot of gasoline. And what I did is I dug a trench in my backyard near where the flowers go, near the fence. And then I put high quality gas with Stable. I don't use Stable now, but I put Stable in it. And I buried these cans. I put these cans in this trench, and just the nozzles stuck up out of the trench. And I'd taken the lids off and put a piece of plastic on, and then screwed the lid down on top of the plastic so, it couldn't come out that way. And then once all the cans were in the trench with just the nozzles sticking above ground level, I laid a really heavy piece of plastic over top of that and tucked it in so no water could get on there. And then I put, this much mulch right across the top of that. So it looked like, landscaping in my yard. And I think I put up, I don't know, 6 or 8 5-gallon cans of gas that way. And I put it in November of '99. And I pulled it out like that August because we were going to move, and started using it in my cars. And it worked fine. No problem. And so that is gas. And now, we just store it. And like I said, I rotate. I'm building a POL storage shed right now, petroleum, oil, and lubricants. So, yeah, biblically unclean food and what is clean, Rainey. Leviticus chapter 11 is your go-to scripture for that. All right. Hey, I enjoyed it. The time went way too fast. I appreciate y'all. I'm glad we could do this. And any final words, Sister Kate? A lot of the people were calling her Mother Kate at this thing. It's like, whoo, she's not that old yet. Her hair's not that gray. Nothing? All right. Hey, we love you guys. I look forward to doing more vids. Keep the comments coming. And remember, it is difficult for me in normal circumstances, and I don't consider this with electricity normal, to answer comments on Patreon because I can't do it from my phone. For whatever reason, when I go to view comments on my phone and it tries to go to the internet, it just doesn't work on my phone. And so the best way, if you really want something from me, send me an email, vikingservices@hotmail.com. Put in your title, what Viking warrior, Viking Jarl, Viking berserker, something like that, although I know the berserkers. And so I will try to answer it. Not guaranteeing I will, but I'll see it. And if I want to answer it, it's a lot easier. Sometimes, because I get an email, like I've gotten 21 emails since we started this show. I get an email for every comment made. And sometimes I see one that I really want to answer, but I can't get there from here. So send me an email, and I'll try and get to it. All right. Hey, wish us luck. We're headed back to Shofar Mountain in the morning, and I'll see you out there.